Following our introduction to Victorian London and the initial violent episode that marked the onset of the Whitechapel murders, we now turn our attention to the Canonical Five, the victims officially and unequivocally attributed to the killer who would come to be known as Jack the Ripper. Welcome to Haunted Histories, where the facts are often more chilling than fiction. Mary Ann Nichols, known affectionately as Polly, was a petite woman in her early 40s. Once married for 24 years and the mother of 5 children, her life began to unravel following multiple separations from her husband, whom she left permanently in 1881. She subsequently fell into poverty and alcoholism, turning to prostitution and frequently moving between London's workhouses. After briefly working as a maid, Polly was dismissed for theft and returned to the familiar routine of transient lodging and street work. In the early hours of August 31st, 1888, she was seen by her friend Emily Holland, another local prostitute, near Whitechapel's Osborne Street. Drunk and struggling to walk, she claimed she had already earned her DOS money 3 times that day, only to drink it away. She assured Emily that she'd soon return and vanished into the night. At approximately 3:45 a.m., Charles Cross discovered Polly's body on Bucks Row while on his way to work. Another passerby joined him, and believing she might still be alive, they arranged her skirts and continued walking, promising to alert a police officer. Shortly afterward, PC John Neal encountered her body while on his beat. He was soon joined by PC's Thane and Mizzen, who sought medical assistance. Dr. Rhys Llewellyn arrived on the scene, but declared her dead, estimating she had died only minutes earlier. Her body was found in a heavily industrialized part of Whitechapel, between warehouses and working-class housing, just beneath the window of a terraced home. Despite the location, nearby residents claimed to have heard nothing unusual. Polly possessed only a comb, a white handkerchief, and a fragment of mirror. According to Dr. Llewellyn, she had been killed where she lay, her blood pooling beside her in the gutter. Her injuries included facial bruising, deep abdominal lacerations, and 2 horrific cuts across her throat, severing tissue down to the vertebrae. Her funeral was paid for by her father, estranged husband, and eldest son. She was laid to rest in a polished elm coffin at the City of London Cemetery. Her senseless and brutal murder offered London its first real glimpse of the horror to come. There was no robbery, only violence, and within days he would strike again. Annie Chapman, aged 47, stood just 5 feet tall. She had once been married and had 3 children. Separated from her husband since 1885, she descended into poverty and alcoholism, a path likely shared by her former spouse. After his death in 1886, she turned to prostitution to survive. Living in the Crossingham lodging house in Spitalfields, Annie was known to be in a relationship with a man named Edward Stanley, who occasionally paid for her accommodations. On the night of September 7th, 1888, Annie was seen drinking beer with another lodger. Though she went to bed, she left again later and was seen by the night watchman eating a baked potato. When told she lacked money for her lodging, she replied, "Don't worry, I'll soon be back," and walked towards Spitalfields Market. At around 5:30 a.m. on September 8th, a woman named Elizabeth Long saw Annie speaking to a man on Hanbury Street. He asked her, "Will you?" To which she replied, "Yes." Her body was discovered at 6 a.m. in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street by a resident living on the upper floor. He immediately alerted others and went to the police. Annie had suffered a deep, jagged throat wound that nearly encircled her neck. Blood had pooled around her and was smeared on the fence behind her. Dr. George Baxter Phillips, who examined the body, later testified that the precision of the wounds suggested anatomical knowledge, perhaps surgical or butcher-like skills, a point that would fuel ongoing debates about the killer's background and training. Annie's few possessions included a small piece of muslin, a comb, and some pills. She was believed to be dying from either tuberculosis or syphilis and had been ill for some time before her murder. Her funeral was held in private by her closest relatives, who wished to avoid public spectacle. With Annie's death, the press intensified its coverage. Newspapers printed lurid stories, speculations, and vivid imagery. Public fear surged. Whitechapel was now gripped by panic. The Ripper had claimed his second known victim, and the nightmare was only beginning. In the next episode, Jack the Ripper strikes again, as London's fear grows and the nation watches in horror.